Very, very special guest in the building. I have Shawna Suckow. Hope I've pronounced that right. CSP, a keynote speaker, consumer behavior expert. And again, what I loved about our similar conversation is, again, helping the small businesses in a way that's quite powerful. You have a reputation delivering game changing keynotes, that feel more like a TED meet stand up and a mix with a huge dose of an audience engagement. We really love the way you help audiences rethink what really drives trust, right? Loyalty, action. Again, we always talk about, people are always looking for, new customers instead of keeping that loyalty between the ones that you already have. And you've been so amazing and so passionate about what you do with a new book that has just come out, and we're incredibly proud of you, which you'll be able to buy, purchase in the description below. So welcome so much, Shawna. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
It's an honor to be here. So, Shauna, let's just, before we get into all the strategies and tips and the amazing things I want to ask you, can you talk to us a little bit about your journey? How did you start to get to where you are?
Oh my goodness. So I was one of those people that would rather die than get on stage and speak to a group. It was a huge fear of mine until my late 30s. Like I never foresaw this as a career. I was a meeting planner and I would much rather have been behind the scenes. That's what I did. But I wrote a book because I controlled millions of dollars of corporate money, and I was being marketed at and sold at all the time. And so I wrote a book, kind of a do this, not that, and you'll have an easier time reaching people like me and getting us to listen, to respond, to say yes. And the book is really what thrust me into speaking very much against my will. And the more I did it, the more I realized this is about helping people and telling them what nobody else tells them. Like buyers don't usually, confide their secrets with the people who are trying to sell them things. So I decided that was my job.
Mm. And
Never
the
look back.
awesome. And just quickly, so the title of your book, "Small is Your Superpower." Obviously, how small businesses thrive. Can you Why? What does that mean? What do you mean by small is your superpower?
So the subtitle is how small businesses finally can outsmart big brands at marketing. And I feel like now is the time because I study consumer behavior and B2B, business to business buyer behavior. And there's such a high level of distrust that it's the opportunity that small businesses have that big corporations don't to really create that trust by just being human, by out humaning the big brands, out humaning the competition by talking like a real person and getting rid of all the posturing and performative marketing and the polish, all of that stuff, the stock photos, and just have conversations with your prospects, your audience, your desired audience, and you will start to attract your exact right customers. And corporations, huge brands can't do this because they've got layers and layers of approvals and legal teams and huge marketing departments, and they're slow and they're
Mhm.
stodgy before they can really make a decision. And I see a lot of corporations trying to act small and trying to communicate like they're small, and they can't do it. So it's the time of the small business who takes the brave step to really just be human.
Yes, and keep that personal touch. And like you said, there's a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to the corporate. So, a small business, you're able to move fast, nimble. What do the customers want? How can we improve that customer experience? So you talked about marketing. Well, how can a small business market themselves? All you said was fantastic, Shauna. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Boom. Okay, well, where do I start? Like, what's some, a small guidance that can make someone realize how powerful this is, and what are practical steps they can use to use it as their superpower?
Oh, that's a good question. So the first thing is figuring out who your exact right customer is. If you've been in business a while, you know who you probably have customers of all different types, but who you love working with, who like really gets you and who supports you and who refers you and who's like, oh, I wish I could clone this customer and make all of them like this. So figure out what that looks like, who that would be, and where does that type of customer hang out? Because they probably aren't found realistically on every single search or social platform. But small businesses, they feel like they have to be everywhere all the time. And it's just not possible unless you have a huge budget or a huge staff. And so choose where your customers hang out. Like for me, I speak at conferences. My customers aren't on Instagram. My clients are on LinkedIn and they're on YouTube. Might they be on Instagram or Facebook occasionally? Of course, but the conversations I want to have with them take place on LinkedIn, or they see me because it's a visual thing that I do and they hear me on YouTube. And so giving myself permission to not be everywhere was huge. And then learning who my exact right customer is and who it is not. I am not all things to all people. I shouldn't try to be. But that's another pressure small businesses face is like anybody with money is my customer. Well, technically, I mean, they could be, but they're not going to resonate with you. They're not going to like the way you do business. You're not for everybody. They're going to leave bad reviews. They're not going to refer you. So don't focus on them. Drill down and figure out who you want more of and go after them through the social channels that they hang out on and have the conversations that will appeal to them by just putting out videos and saying real things, not always like, hey, we're having a sale. Very little of that and more of conversations.
Conversations. How does one have conversations more with their ICP? So I love what you've just said as well. And then the next question I want to ask you, what are you also most dealing with in terms of when it comes to small businesses? Is it B2B or B2C?
I, both. So I'm typically hired B2B because it's like a conference organizer or a corporate entity, something like that that brings me in. Usually it's an association because that's where small businesses congregate who couldn't afford to maybe bring me into their small business, but if they all come together at their industry association, those are typically the places that I speak. But those businesses may be dealing direct to consumer, or they may be selling to other businesses. And the cool thing about that is because of this lack of trust and because of how we've all changed and evolved since COVID, is there the line between how a business to business buyer and a business to consumer buyer behaves is like paper thin now, because at the end of the day, we are becoming more and more human, less and less professional and postured and polished and all of that stuff. Like those filters are going away. Like the example I just gave to an audience earlier this week is before COVID, if you and I were on a Zoom call and my dog walked into the room and jumped up on me, I would be mortified. But during and after COVID, that is really common and it's humanizing. And we go, oh, who's your dog? And we don't get offended because it's unprofessional. Like it's kind of an icebreaker now. And I tell everybody, just, be more of who you are, just amplify that on your social channels. If you do Zoom calls like this, tell a story on your wall behind you if you can. All the things that before you even open your mouth and have a live conversation with somebody, they go, okay, they're like me, or that's somebody I would do business with, or they're not like me, I don't want to do business with them. That's okay too. That's okay too, because it leaves room for your exact right customers to come.
And it's similar when we first had a conversation was, again, really you find your tribe. I had a podcast earlier about this as well. It's like, if someone maybe can watch this piece of content and, oh, I don't like the way Sugira is talking, whatever. Well, from the get-go, because I'm putting out content, I'm already filtering out who potentially is not for me and who is for me. Even by the wording that I use, I know my customers so well. If you're not really a part of what I've just said or the audience, then maybe this isn't just not for you. So by, having that, presence, you can filter out, even on a recruitment side as well, you can filter out who's for you and who's not for you, which I think is powerful. And I love how you said even the platforms, focus on, which platform to be on, where are your customers. Maybe, for example, us, the same thing, YouTube, LinkedIn, that's where they are. They're in a development mindset. When they're on the other social platforms, they're more entertainment. So you said having the right conversations with your ideal customer profile. So tips from Shawna straight away was find the platform, at least put out some content, be yourself as a small business owner. But then you also said have conversations with your ICP, also identifying who your ideal customer profile is. Okay, what do I do now? What conversations? How do I go about that?
Tell stories. I call them micro stories. I didn't come up with that, but I'm adopting that because, and my definition might be different. Like a micro story is anything you put out that may cause an emotional reaction with somebody. Because if we're just putting out facts and calls to action all the time, that's not going to cause an emotional reaction in anybody. But if I'm telling you a story by just like posting a photo without words tells a story. It's a micro story. Or a video where I'm just talking straight to camera, that's a micro story. Or a written post, also a micro story. So, but we have to trigger some sort of emotion today because that's what makes us memorable. Facts don't make you memorable, but emotion does, which is why if you think back to like the earliest memory you have as a child, it's probably tied to something emotional, whether it's love or fear or laughter or whatever. That's the kind of stuff that sticks with us because it's also about being memorable. And so those one-sided kind of conversations, as if you are, becoming friends with somebody and you're sharing something with them, that's how it starts. And pretty soon they will start to talk back. And then it becomes not just a one-sided conversation. And that's when you move toward really clicking with somebody and forming what I call a brandship, which is like a friendship, but somebody wants to have it with your business, or if you're the face of your business, as you and I are, then with you personally. But we all have those businesses that we really respect and trust, and we would refer them like crazy. And we're like, everything they put out, we want to read and share and everything. That's what we're going for. And that doesn't happen if we're all sales pitches and calls to action. It happens when we tell our stories in lots of different ways, and on different topics. Like I, I just launched my book, as you mentioned, and I told a story a couple of weeks ago about how just log jammed my brain was and how I was struggling. Like there was so much going on and so much pressure that I was putting on myself and deadlines looming, and I just had to disappear for a day and take a solo retreat and just be out in nature and go for a hike and stuff. And rather than hold that back and just show my audience perfection, I shared that. And it was probably the most viral post I've made all year because it was the most real thing. So I struggle with it too, about putting things out there and just showing the shiny, good stuff about, hey, I'm on stage. But it's all of the moments, not just the perfect ones, that our audience wants to see.
All of them, the vulnerable moments and things like that. So can you tell us a story on when you started? What need did you see in the marketplace for exactly what you do and what you're teaching?
Oh, so as I started to say earlier in the beginning of my story, so I was kind of thrust into the spotlight and onto the stage against my will. And the more I did it, I thought, okay, what I know can help all these people. So, okay, I'm going to do this a little bit more. And so I created a website, and it was awful. It was awful. It was everything I thought I had to be a successful speaker like the ones that I saw in the marketplace. So it was all black and white and corporate and edgy, and had me in a black and white photo against a brick wall and like a leather jacket. And oh, it's embarrassing now when I think about it, how not me it was. And so it was when I gave myself permission finally to kind of put out there who I really am, and I don't write like other people. I don't talk like other people on stage. I just tell stories and I converse, and I don't have a performance and I don't memorize things. I use case studies and I give lessons and share funny things, and so once I translated who I really am onto the stage and onto the website and onto the social channels, everything changed for me. My audience found me, I found them, my fees went up, I got a lot more speaking opportunities because they could see who I was and I looked different from everybody else.
Mm,
So, yeah, that's kind of how my journey started, and it's only just reinforced the more I do that the more I find my exact right people, and I no longer end up on stages that I have no business being on. Like the worst gig I ever did, they hired me based on that edgy corporate looking professional website. And then back then I had pink hair. I got up on stage and they're like, "Who is this?" And it didn't match. And I did them a disservice. And the audience was not for me. I was not for them. It did not go well. I got horrible reviews. And that was a hard lesson because I am not for everybody, but for the people who I do resonate with, I'm the exact right speaker for them, but not everybody.
And so, had you had a lot of experience within the corporate world?
As far as a speaker or working in the corporate world?
Working in the corporate world.
Yes. So I was in hospitality. I was a meeting planner slash corporate buyer. Essentially, I spent millions and millions of dollars to put on conventions all over the world for this huge commercial real estate company. And so I was essentially like a corporate buyer in charge of a lot of money for over 15 years. And that's how I kind of started to realize some people are really good at marketing, or some companies, some individuals are really good at sales, others just are not. And that's when I decided I need to write a book on this, because all the other planners in this group that I belong to were just like sharing like bad emails and sharing bad tactics. And I was like, okay, this feels like we could use this to help them rather than, you know, make fun of them. And so that's when I decided to write the book, and yeah, changed my whole trajectory for sure.
And I think that's quite powerful. You know, even the reason for my question, working in corporate. So, like, and I know you mentioned a little bit earlier in terms of the bureaucracy and things, but what are some other things that you saw that the corporates do really well? You know, that a small business can use, you know, to compete, right? And then what are some things that you saw that weren't the best that a small business can also use to be like, hey, okay, if they're not doing this, we can do this. What were some of those things that you saw on both sides?
Oh, things that corporations do really well. Corporations is just a whole different ballgame when it comes to marketing, because they can do a lot of testing. They can do professional focus groups. They can, they have so many different, some of them have outside agencies that they pay millions of dollars, and those outside agencies still get things wrong. They don't quite have the pulse on the average person and how the average person thinks and buys today. So what small businesses can learn is focus groups are still important, but it doesn't have to be a paid focus group of strangers that you fly in from all over the country. It can be asking, 5 or 10 of your customers that will tell you the truth. Hey, I'm thinking about going in this direction. Can we hop on a Zoom call? Can I ask you? I mean, I would be thrilled if one of my favorite companies reached out to me and said, hey, we would love your input because you're one of our favorite customers. Okay. So focus groups, things like testing your emails, we can do a little bit of that. But it's expensive and it takes time. And I think our time and money are better spent as small businesses just telling micro stories and putting out the word about what we're doing and the behind the scenes stuff, not just in front of the sales office, but what's going on in the warehouse, or what's going on. The vendor didn't show up, or I give the example in my book of like a bakery that puts out just pictures of beautiful cupcakes all the time. And it's just another cupcake. But if you tell the story of what happened at 5 a.m. and they're covered in flour and they're maybe taking a video of something that went horribly wrong, and it humanizes them, and you start to kind of pull for them as a human, you're like, oh yeah, okay. Those cupcakes become a little bit more attractive because of the story, the emotion behind it. You're probably going to seek them out more. You're going to remember them more, and you're probably willing to pay a little bit more because you know what went into it. It's not just another cupcake in a store. So all of those stories, that huge, like Krispy Kreme donuts, probably everybody knows what that is. They can't do that. Or if they can, they choose not to because it's not perfect. They wouldn't dare show, the big spill in the back room that happened that caused them to, ruin 300 donuts. I would like to see that, but they won't show it.
Mm.
And it's one
Wow.
of the most humanizing things that they could have done, or going back there and saying, Susanna has been with us for 5 years today. Susanna, just filming her or sharing a picture of her and telling about her, Susanna just had a baby or whatever, humanizing the faces behind the thing. It
Mm.
makes us care that much more as humans, and we trust before we even buy. And that is magic.
We- but also I really want to go back to what you said with the focus groups. I still think that's still not a bad idea. I really like that. Like sometimes, how can I go in and speak to two, three, four of my customers and just have, take them out to coffee or have a Zoom call that doesn't really cost you anything and get that valuable information. I think that was a huge little tip there as well.
Yeah, it was fun reaching out to some of my past clients as I was writing the book and just asking them, would you give me a testimonial? Can I send you an advanced copy? And just connecting with them again, but being really vulnerable and going, here's this thing that I've been putting blood, sweat, and tears into. Would you look at it and tell me if it's good or not? It's being very vulnerable, and it's not always easy, but
Mm.
just reaching out to them, it was kind of like my own focus group.
Mm.
And of course, your clients, if they love you, they're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. So you really have to pave the way and make it safe for them to tell you the truth.
Mm.
And so doing that is also important because you don't want to be in an echo chamber of them just saying, oh no, the book is really good. you know so it's also about having real conversations
Mm.
and telling them, getting on a focus group of 1 or 5 and just saying, hey, I'm struggling.
Mm.
um, the economy's turning, and um, I'm struggling with this in my business, and I just respect you and your wisdom. What advice would you give me? Would you be my board of directors for the next hour? What would you recommend, because you know me?
Mm.
That I think would be hugely powerful.
Extremely powerful. And having said that, you talked about you being a speaker. How do you think a lot of more people can get into speaking as well whilst they're running their business, right? You talked about trust and driving that trust. And I think nothing drives more trust also than when you see someone who's on stage talking about what it is they do, having that passion. Like, wow, that trust already goes to the window. I think with content and doing things like this, that builds trust. So how can one also become a speaker? Because now you're doing one to many, right? And how many can you then convert from there, which is just incredibly powerful. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So, well, there are a lot of different avenues. I didn't choose my avenue, it chose me. But certainly, if you belong to a professional association or a chamber, talk to them about how they curate their speakers for their conferences or even their monthly meetings. And it's also about, what do you want to say that's different, that hasn't been spoken about a million times already, so that you do stand out? Because otherwise they are going to ask the biggest corporations who have, the well-known reputations, and they're going to pass over the little guy. Because, if I have a chance to ask somebody from Google to be on my stage, or, little guy over here who owns a little tiny store, I'm going to default to Google unless little tiny store has something really cool to say. So what do you have to say? And then write it up and get it into the hands of the people who make those decisions, and practice it. Go to your chamber or your Toastmasters and start honing your skill. And then you have to get video of yourself, because I don't know, as a planner myself, as a former planner, I don't know that I would have hired a single speaker without seeing how they perform on stage. Because somebody can be great in person and then just not have that same presence when they're talking from the stage. And then if you know a professional speaker, ask them. Everybody in National Speakers Association um, is just so gracious with sharing their knowledge, and they help me tremendously. And all of us have been ingrained with kind of passing that on. It's the spirit of the association that we belong to. So
Mm.
find a
Yeah.
mentor.
find a mentor. And you're a, certified speaking professional, CSP. How did that come about as well?
Ooh, so for those in your audience that don't know what that is, the way I describe it is it's like a master's in professional speaking. It's really kind of the only equivalent that we have. It involves you have to have delivered at least 250 speeches on stages. You have to prove a certain amount of income. There's a peer review of your video that is just nerve-wracking to be judged by your peers. And you have to get a certain number of recommendation letters from past clients. There are classes you have to take. And so it's a lot. And it takes at least 5 years. They give you up to 10 years to look back and curate all this information. And I'm so glad I did it. I'm so glad it's over. Now I just have it. That's that medal right there. And I'm very proud of it.
Wow. It's interesting because I've had clients who are CSP, but I didn't know what goes into it. I thought it was just something maybe, yes, like you've built up quite a career, but maybe you just pay for it just to have that title. But I didn't know it's all of that. Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot. So mad respect for anybody that I see who has earned it. And in fact, when you get your medal, you get it on stage at the annual conference, and it is traditional that you wear it all weekend. You wear it for like 3 days in a row, and everybody, like the 2,000 people who are there, will just congratulate you and give you all this love because they know how hard it is. And I love the recognition from within the industry. We need to work on more of sharing what that means outside the industry, because there is a lack of knowledge about what it means to be at that level and to have achieved that. It's huge. I love
Mm,
when my friends earn it and I get to celebrate them. It's a big
mhm.
deal.
It is huge. It is huge. And so, on this topic of, small business and what's happening in the marketplace today, what do you think actually some of the challenges are for small business owners out there? Is it the cost of living? Is it pricing? Is it, I've spoken to people having even feast and famine cycles in their business, right? Like, some people may not want to spend at the moment, or, like how do you stand out? What's the differences in the small businesses who have their pipeline full and demand keeps coming, and the ones who it's up and down? Like, how do we who are the how do you survive in the marketplace today? Like, what are your thoughts and the challenges that you're seeing
It's
with
interesting. Back in December of 24, I was considering a topic change away from marketing. And then January happened, and then the inauguration happened, and tariffs started coming. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I feel pulled back. I feel drawn back to marketing, but really focusing on small businesses because they're going to need it. Small businesses, just like during COVID, there were some that really thrived during COVID. Most struggled though, and we were very unprepared. What's going on now is this incredible uncertainty. We don't know like where the market's headed and how, will there be more tariffs? What's happening from day to day? Anything can change and it keeps changing. And so it is really a stressful time to be a business owner or to work in a small business. It's super stressful. Cost of living is going up. Tariffs may be impacting your business and driving your pricing up at a time when people's income is being challenged more and more with the price of things. And so it is a challenging time. The brandship that you form with your customer is what's going to get you through anything, because your customers will tell you. You got to be open to the feedback from your exact right customers, and you have to be willing. I hate this word. You have to be willing to pivot, though, if what you're doing, like farmers, so many farmers were run out of business through no fault of their own. There's no amount of social media that could have saved a soybean farmer in the past couple months because of just the way the government has impacted their business. But if you can pivot and change and really listen to your customers and really stay focused on what your exact right customer needs and how you communicate with them, you're going to do better than your competition, who's either not listening, not telling a clear story, doesn't have those brand ships with any of their customers, and they're not going to get referred. Your customers that are championing you, tell them what you need. Ask them for mentoring. Ask them, and be clear with the struggle, because they get it. They're not dumb. Our clients are struggling. Our customers are struggling with the same things: the uncertainty, the price pressure, all these things. And so, vulnerability is huge and humanizing, and creates those brandships too. So, yeah, I mean, even as a speaker, COVID was awful. We were all taken off the road, and we had to pivot and figure out how to make a living staying home. And if that happens again, if the economy, impacts conferences, let's say, and they start to get canceled and whatnot, I'm going to listen to my customers. I'm going to tell my story. I'm going to ask for help. I'm going to do the focus groups, and I'm going to keep communicating my value and my stories. And I think if I focus on their needs and communicating in a way that they hear me and they see me as one of them, that's what I want to be. I want to be one of them. Then I think I'm doing the best that I can, and I'll do better than my competition.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And, especially in moments like that, yeah, go back to your customer, basically, is also what you're saying. Go back to who you're doing it for, the people that you're solving, because everything starts with the customer, and I really love that.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
I was going to say, you're so good. You're so good at being a magnet to people and to I'm sure, your own clients. And so, and you're a connector. So if the industry were to impact your business, you are far better poised to go and ask for help, because you've been giving it. You're a giver and a connector, and you're magnetic. And so be like you. I would tell your listeners and watchers, be like you. Be like you are, and just be magnetic, be a connector, be a giver, be vulnerable, tell your micro stories, and I think you'll be okay.
That
Unless you're a
means a lot.
soybean farmer, and then
That means a lot. Thank you so much. And it's really, it's what one thing I've learned is just a relationship game, right? Like, I think, to be honest, that's what actually separates you from the marketplace, is just the ability to be you and build those relationships. And it's very simple. Like, I can give you an example. Let's say with video editing or in the production, let's say someone within my team could potentially go and maybe try to poach a customer, for example, right? Because they're the ones who are editing the video. But when you build a personal brand and you build that powerful relationship, that person, no matter if you can edit that video 10 times better, I'm not going to leave you, because you know what? I'm here because of you. I like you. I like the relationship, this partnership. And, so actually my question would be, when we do want to scale and I don't want the business to be reliant on me, how do I still scale, keep my loyal customers, but at the same time, I'm only one person. I can't, have maybe that same relationship we had when, it wasn't as much. How does now one go when it comes to scaling at a large level?
the stories that you tell stop being about you as much, and you start to morph into telling the stories of other people on your team, of other customers, of other challenges, and let them start telling the stories. And it's just a gradual move. And take your favorite customers with you along on that journey with you, and introduce them, and ask if your new team members can come and meet on a Zoom call. Since you're one of my absolute favorite clients, can I bring a couple new team members? I want them to meet you and learn from you. I mean, what client would love that? And it's the
Mhm,
truth. You want
mhm,
them to learn how your best customers think, and how to serve somebody like them, and how to get more people like them to be your customers. So it's just
mhm.
expanding the conversation and the micro stories.
I love that. I love that. So, Shawna, what's next for you? You've got an amazing book out. What's next for you? What are you conquering? And what does it look like to work with you? Like, what does that look like?
Well, what's next for me is just continuing to roll out this book and get it into as many hands of small business owners and marketers as I can. And I love to speak on stages if those opportunities present themselves in the one to many. I also love just helping one on one with a small business with like a one time marketing assessment where I do a 360-degree look at everything they have that's client facing and give them kind of a download of advice and thoughts and suggestions. So from there all the way up to speaking at a conference and consulting in between. So yeah, they can reach me at thebuyerinsider.com.
Awesome, awesome. And we'll have the book in the description, as I said, on YouTube for people to go and get. So I like to do a little game that I will give you like a word, and then you can only say it in one word, like what comes at the top of your mind. Yeah?
Oh, okay. I have a trucker's mouth, so I'm going to try to keep it clean.
Yeah. I love that. And you're open, we're so awesome here. So CEO.
Leader.
Ooh, I like that. Explain a little bit more. Why do you say leader?
That was not the first word that I went to. That was the safe word that I went to. But a CEO, if they're good, then they really are a leader and not a commander. And they bring people along with them, and they don't just sit on a pedestal and command the troops.
So when you talk about leader there, instead of me commanding, I'm in the trenches with you.
Absolutely. I don't think there's any other way to lead unless you're willing to do the things you're asking other people to do and have done them. Yeah, I don't think there's really any other way to have compassion, and to be a compassionate leader requires that. So I wouldn't want to be any other kind of leader.
Awesome. People.
Love, love. And that's for me. I love being around people, not all people. I love being around people that give energy as well as take, like it's a give and take. And people that light me up and allow me to have an impact in their lives as well. So yeah, love that. Love being
Mm,
surrounded by those kinds of people.
mm, love that. Speaker.
Happy, happiness. It's my happy place. Um, yeah, I never like spoke to get business. That's a great business model. But I spoke to serve, and I've been slow to figure out how to grow a business behind that, because I love being on stage now. I hated it before, but I love it now, and just imparting my research. And here's what's working now, because I'm a small business too, and this is working in my business, and I've tested it on me, and here you go. And just sharing the latest with them. And it just makes me so happy to do that. I hope that never goes away until I'm ready.
Mm, I love that. That's really a happy place. That's where you just get into the
Yeah.
zone and just go.
Yeah, I love it.
Mm. Small business.
Scrappy, powerful, scrappy and powerful. That's two words, I know, but just respect to the small business owners out there who wear all the hats and do all the things, and they learn how to turn two nickels into $2 somehow, and then repeat and expand until until they don't have to work 16 hours a day. And but they still, some of them still want to. So yeah, just so much respect for anybody who takes that leap and has a fire in them to start something and serve people.
Mm, I love that. Um, Customer.
Necessary. None of this works unless you have customers and they're the customers that are right for you. So, yeah, the whole thing, in order to be a small business, you need your customers, right? But if you don't do it well, they're not going to stick around, and they're not going to bring others along with them. So,
Mm,
yeah,
mm,
figuring out how to do it really well.
yes. And money.
double-edged sword. Those are all hyphenated, so it can all be one word. Oh, if you make your journey all about money, then you're not going to have many exact right customers. You'll have some, and that will resonate no matter what you stand for. There are probably like-minded people in the world who will stand with you. But if you make it about serving your exact right customer, the money comes. And I don't say that in a naive way. I say that as if you keep the focus on your exact right customer and what their struggle is and what's keeping them up at night, and you can be the one to help them solve that, the money will absolutely come if you're helping them with great intention. And you have to be good at your job, of course, too. It's not that simple, but if you keep that as your focus, that's, I think, number one.
Wow, wow. I think we can end it there. You were absolutely awesome, Shawna. Thank you just so much for, and it's crazy how time just flew by. It was like I don't even know, like that was just crazy. It feels like it's been a minute, 2 minutes. But yeah, thank you so much for just being such a joy. And again, like you've had something within your imagination, you've had a spirit, ever since you started. And we're talking about decades of just passion and love into serving people. And when you serve people, it leads to things like this and having an amazing book and the trajectory of where else you're going. So really, really appreciate you for coming on and being vulnerable and sharing your story and helping that person here who's listening to this podcast a month from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now, they're listening to this. And it's been amazing inspiration. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You just made it so easy to just have what just felt like an easy conversation with a friend. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll keep in touch. People can buy your book below and we'll speak soon.
Bye, everybody.